limitations of Psychic Strike.
Yes.
And the unwillingness to cast it until the exact right moment that actually defeated Max Teats. So we're going to go with Terry Politis, as opposed to, I can't even imagine what the first name is. That'll be fun, though. Maybe I'll try and guess a little bit later as we're going to join this game in progress. Matthias up 1. Now, of course, Matthias is someone that we do commentary with. I know that he lost in the finals of a PTQ with blue-white control a little bit earlier last season. And he's always casting Sphinx's Revelation. He loves it.
He did message me on Facebook, like I said, asking about red-white burn. So he was at least considering that deck this week. Although my endorsement was not ringing, and I don't think it's a deck that Matthias would naturally want to play.
Yeah, could you imagine Matthias playing a burn deck? Because I can't.
It doesn't seem exactly where he would have the most fun.
Be who you are, Matthias.
Yeah, be who you are.
Be the Revelation, guys. Here's a Desecration Demon. Matthias going to take a draw here. Sea of Plains has also got an island here as well. Definitely has a couple lands in his hand. We can see those. The answer is, does he have an answer to the 6/6?
Well, Esper generally has Desecration Demon's very rare that's particularly good against Esper. It does command an answer, but between all the removal spells and sweepers and so forth, it's hard for Desecration Demon to just run away with the game. Needs to be backed up by a lot of discard spells and such. Then sometimes it can happen.
The troublesome thing is that if it actually does hit you, it only takes one hit for it to be relevant.
Yeah.
Bringing you down from 20 to 14 or what have you. That's when things get a little bit more scary. See, Politis is going to play a copy of Whip of Erebos. Okay. You see Matthias does have a Detention Sphere in his hand. He could have Detention Sphere the Desecration Demon. He chose not to. So here's an attack for 6. Hunt's going to go down to 14.
Matthias' hand has to be quite good if he elected not to counter or Detention Sphere the Desecration Demon.
That's how I feel. There's multiple copies of D-Sphere in the grip.
Not the biggest fan of Whip of Erebos against Supreme Verdict decks, for the most part, as it's a bit on the slower side, and the removal spell choice is Detention Sphere. It's the type of card that seems like it would be good against Esper, but I don't think actually is.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think, when Mono Black actually made its kind of debut, for lack of a better term, Whip of Erebos was really good against the Esper decks, and I think everyone then figured out exactly how to beat it. That was the thing. Matthias going to play Temple of Silence before passing the turn back over to Politis.
In my mind, the Black Devotion deck in this matchup is just all about discard spells. What you win the game with is incidental in a lot of spots. Erebos, Underworld Connections, Duress, and Thoughtseize, and then whatever you want to clean up.
Looks like Hunt has drawn a copy of Sphinx's Revelation. The question was, will he leave the mana available up for that now, or will he cast another copy of Detention Sphere and open himself up to the chance that Revelation can be taken via discard spell? He's going to go with Sphere yet again. So 2 Desecration Demons are down via 2 Detention Spheres. They'll pass the turn back to Politis, who will take a draw. I think he may have just peeled off a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, I was about to say, I like this play a lot from Matthias, as his hand is so land heavy that Detention Sphere in this turn, making a land drop, and then rebbing for 4 is so much more powerful. He does open himself up to this risk, and it happened, but sometimes you make the right play and get punished.
Yeah, you see Matthias' hand, he just has 3 lands, 2 islands, and a plains. There's another copy of Desecration Demon, as Hunt's going to take a draw. See what he has to do on this turn. Looks like he's got some mana to tap. I believe it may be a Supreme Verdict, and it will. He could fire Bermuda Vault if he'd like, but he opts just to hold it back. Pass the turn back to Politis, who does have a Grey Merchant of Asphodel in his hand, among other things, so he could do a little drain for 4 here, or he could just whip back the Desecration Demon.
I think I like deploying a Grey Merchant here.
I think I do too. Use all of your mana, have that be your turn, because there's also the chance that if you do activate Whip, Matthias could just say, all right, activate Bermuda Vault, sacrifice, and your creature doesn't get to attack.
Yeah, this is the highest upside play that Terry has access to. If he actually connects, it's great. If Matthias were to sacrifice his Bermuda Vault, things could get a little bit hairy, as he might get a lot of time to find a Revelations to get back in this game.
I've been in the spot that Matthias has been in before, and this is I really hope I draw a Revelation spot, because if I do, I'm probably going to win the game on the spot. This is me a rev for 5, or next turn will be a rev for 6, but he's got to find one. Here's a Duress. There's a couple of planes, so nothing doing over here for Hunt.
I've been on the other side of this quite a bit, where you're crossing your fingers. Come on, no.
Grey Merchant going to come in a little draining, gain for 4. Hunt's going to go down to 4. Politis up to 34. A Syncopate is the draw. Pass the turn back. Over to Politis, who's going to untap. He'll take a draw. You see, he does have a copy of Grey Merchant in his hand right now as well. And it's actually very important that the card that Hunt drew was a Syncopate, because he can exile this. That is huge right now.
Gives another shot at it.
Yeah.
He has a Bermuda Vault to chump block too, so he has a little bit of time.
Got to make sure that does get exiled, and it does, so there we go. It being in the graveyard, not a good thing. Bermuda Vault, Any reason for Mutavault to chump here? Probably not, right? You can wait till the next turn?
Well, the risk here is that if you go to 2 right now, let's say, next turn, Terry has all of his mana available. So if there's a removal spell in his hand, he can cast it. So because he can't cast a removal spell this turn, but can next turn, there is an incentive for Matthias to potentially chump block this turn.
Well, he decides not to. Hunt will take a draw, and he's just going to concede the game. So Terry Politis is going to win game number 2. And we're going to move on to game number 3 here between Black Blue Devotion and Esper Control.
And that's not really that uncommon in my mind. I think Esper's a pretty heavy favorite in the game 1. Games 2 and 3, they're slogging through a much more streamlined Black Devotion build. You're looking at a lot of duresses alongside the Thoughtseizes. You usually see some copies of Erebos to supplement Underworld connections. So it's really important for Esper to win game 1 because the post-board games usually get much harder.
Yeah, with the fact that they have 8 discard spells and some interesting blue cards in the sideboard. We'll take a look at Politis' sideboard right now. 4 Duress, 2 Ultimate Price, 2 Pith and Needle, 2 copies of Gainsay, a Dark Betrayal, 2 Drown in Sorrow, Devour Flesh, and a Whip of Erebos. Things definitely do get more difficult. Those Gainsays may seem like they're coming out of nowhere, and to be honest, they kind of are, but they do play a huge role in this matchup.
Yeah, having access to a hard counter from Revelations, which is Matthias' best tool, is a big deal.
I'm really interested that, people are actually moving towards counter spells in the splash with this deck. We saw Psychic Strike last weekend. We see Gainsay this weekend. Do you think that's the best approach to be taking maybe against, it seems like those cards are just mainly for Esper Control.
Yeah, I really like Gainsay a lot in the sideboard, much more than I like Psychic Strike in the main deck, because when you're bringing in Gainsay against Esper Control, you don't need to have blue mana on turn 2 because you're not Gainsaying things on turn 2. You're trying to stop a Revelations on turn 8, let's say. You may want to bring it in against Blue Devotion as well, and Gainsay can do some work there, and then that's a little more timing sensitive. But against Esper Control, you have time to find your blue mana, as opposed to, say, playing Psychic Strike in your main deck, where you need to have Psychic Strike available on turn 3 because it's in your main deck, and people are doing powerful things on the 3rd turn.
It's got to be really nice, too, that a lot of the times when we see a black-based Devotion deck lose to an Esper deck, it's where they exhaust their hand, they're trying to close out the game, and then the Esper deck draws Revelation, and they get back into it. The fact that you can't stop the top of their deck because of discard, it's always been a problem, but the fact that you could have a Gainsay in reserve for if they do peel Revelation against you is really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. The other thing is, you rip apart their hand, but it actually takes you a long time to kill them. Mm-hmm. It's not like they have one turn to draw Revelations. You saw that game, Matthias had no spells in his hand. He probably had 4 or 5 turns to find a Sphinx's Revelation, and that was with Terry deploying multiple copies of Desecration Demon, his fastest threat. So the Esper deck usually has a lot of draw steps after their hand gets torn apart. Gainsay's great insurance in that spot.
On the other side of things for Esper Control, what does Mr. Hunt have? Not too sure right now because we're still waiting on his deck list, but you do see that he's taking a look at his opening hand right now. We'll see if we do catch any sideboard cards right now. It looks like a mulligan here for Politis, so Hunt has kept his 7. He'll be on the play, and Politis is going to go down to at least 6 cards here.
It's really important for Esper to keep 7 cards in this matchup, I feel like, and even keeping some sketchy 7-card hands is the best because the Black Devotion list just has so many ways to attack your hand post-board.
Yeah, mulliganing, especially when there's a guarantee that you're going to be Thoughtseize or Duress in the first, 2nd, or 3rd turn of the game, not the best spot to be in. That's why a card like Divination has been seeing a lot of play too in these decks, is because they do such a nice job of once you start getting Thoughtseize and Duress of just drawing 2 cards, whatever they are.
Yeah, it's between Divination and Read the Bones, I think players are showing an appropriate respect for those kind of effects. 3 mana, draw 2 with some, slight upside. Historically, players have had better card drawing spells available to them, and so Divinations have been really respected, but those cards are plenty good for tournament level play. It doesn't have to be as good as Think Twice to be good enough to play.
I haven't seen a lot of Read the Bones recently. It's starting to pick up a little bit. I think people are kind of hedging now on 2 Read the Bones, 2 Underworld Connections, and mono black decks, but Read the Bones is such a really, really good card. It'll start seeing play at some point.
Yeah, once you get away from Gray Merchant, which the black-white lists generally do, I think having a split makes a lot more sense.
All right, so
Read the Bones is so much better in aggressive matchups than Underworld Connections.
For sure. 6 cards coming here for Politis. See if he can find what he's looking for. A couple of Lance and discard spells. He does not look thrilled with that hand, though. See Matthias sitting up in his chair a little bit knowing, aha, things are kind of going my way a little bit here. It's a devious smile. And he is going to take another mulligan, so down to 5. Goes the black blue devotion player. If you're wondering here about Politis' deck list as well, what the blue splash is, again, we said Gainsays in the sideboard. And there are 3 copies of Cyclonic Rift in the main deck. So that's a little unusual as well.
Well, it's a way to catch back up in some spots. You know, the black devotion deck, if you get out in front of it, it doesn't have a lot of ways to catch up. No mutilates, no real sweepers unless Drown in Sorrow is good against your opponent.
Thank goodness no mutilates.
Also, it's a combo with Thoughtseize.
I see.
You can put it back and then
take it. I like it. The old 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm. Combo.
It's no probe therapy, but it'll do.
Yeah. It's a working man's probe therapy.
Yeah. 5 cards coming here for Politis. Does he find what he's looking for here? He definitely can't afford to mulligan again, so he's just going to keep Hollow Fountain here for Hunt, and we are underway to game number 3. You see there's at least a duress over there for Politis. He did draw a Temple of Deceit for the turn.
Since the black deck is also a trade 1-for-1 deck in a lot of spots, it also can't mulligan that far.
A little scry action here to get things started.
You have to find a functional hand, of course, but you can't go forever.
See exactly what he wants to do with this, and looks like he's going to put it at the bottom after a lot of consideration there. As Hunt's going to take a draw. You see he has a Jace Architect of Thought in his hand, Hollowed Fountain, Watery Grave, a couple other options. Just going to play Mutavault and pass the turn back, potentially leaving up the ability to syncopate and or negate this turn. And you see a negate in his hand, the textless version.
And Terry has found Underworld Connections, which is step 1. If he's able to get this into play, he can start playing a real game.
Matthias with a negate immediately on the duress, saying, I have no interest in letting you resolve that spell. See, Politis does have another Temple, however, which will scry a little bit here. We'll see if he's maybe looking for a 3rd land for the Underworld Connections that you did mention.
Yeah. He also has Desecration. I mean, he just needs mana. I'm sure if he could draw the next 3 turns, if he could draw lands, he would choose to.
Yeah. If he can get Underworld Connections in play, that'll give him a shot. That's all he can really ask for in a mulligan to 5. Hunt's going to play a Temple of Deceit. It's time to scry on his side of things. Top card immediately goes to the bottom, so definitely not what he was looking for. And he does just pass the turn back. Watery Grave, the card drawn here for Politis. Have to imagine he's going to try to deploy that Connections this turn.
Yeah, it only gets worse from here.
Yeah.
I understand being worried about Syncopate, but Matthias gets to untap, then Dissolve is suddenly something you have to concern yourself with.
Watery Grave's going to come to play on tap. Politis is going to go down to 18.
It's not a high percentage chance that this Underworld Connection sticks, but you got to try it.
And it looks like that's going to be resolving. So he does get it into play. We'll see if Hunt has a card like Revoke Existence or Detention Sphere at this point. But you see the top card. This is a Hollowed Fountain. So I think we're going to see that Jace, and that's exactly what we do see. It's going to tick down as there's a Revelation, a Detention Sphere, and an Elspeth. Pretty good 3 cards to reveal.
Yeah. Terry really can't afford for Matthias to get this Detention Sphere because he needs Connections to stick, but he also has no pressure, and so Sphinx's Revelation is hard for him to beat as well. This Jace also has the potential to do a lot of damage here, as Terry has no Mutavaults, no way to pressure this, so Matthias can plus it next turn, minus it again, plus it 2 turns in a row, minus it again, potentially draw a bunch of cards off of this.
It's pretty rough sailing here for Politis, who's taking a look at 3 incredibly powerful cards from the Esper control deck and figuring out how to split them.
I almost think this has to be Detention Sphere or bust.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and that is just a yucky split. But again, you don't really have much of an option.
You can hope that Matthias just doesn't have any lands in his hands, and the Revelation and the Elspeth doesn't amount to much. It's just hard for me to imagine beating Detention Sphere plus one of these cards.
Yeah.
What's the game plan here?
Well, there's your split. And you saw Matthias didn't even hesitate. Just taking Detention Sphere plus whatever X was going to be before passing the turn back over to Politis.
It's possible Matthias would have simply selected whichever 2-card pile he got.
There's a chance of that, yeah.
Yeah, all the cards may be of a close enough value where that's how he'd like to play it.
Politis draws his card for the turn. Has not activated Underworld Connections yet. We don't know if he will this turn or not, as Matthias does show the Detention Sphere and the Elspeth, saying this is exactly what you passed over to me. So Politis is going to go down to 17. He will take a draw. Maybe looking for a discard spell to get the Detention Sphere out of Hunt's hand. That's a Water Grave tapped and just passing the turn back over to Hunt, who's going to quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. We'll see how he wants to use Jace and what he wants to do on this turn.
The other reason that I think that I would have selected just split Detention Spirit by itself there is because this Jace is going to go uncontested. You may have already lost the card advantage fight, at least in the short term.
Hunt is going to cash in his Jace. So a 1 is a Plains, a 2 is a Verdict, and 3 is a Temple of Enlightenment. Let's see what he wants to do with these and how to split them for Politis.
And even though this is a much more innocuous 3 cards than we saw last time from Matthias, Terry's hand of 2 Swamps and 2 Desecration Demons is also not well suited to even beat Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. And I think in this situation, you know, if you're Hunt, you might just be interested in lands, but you also could just be interested in 1-for-1ing Desecration Demons, so nothing strange happens. But you're in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah. Matthias is so close to discarding the hand size anyway that I think he just wants to have the Supreme Verdict as some insurance.
There's a Temple. Take a look. Gonna leave that one, it looks like, on top. Maybe. Maybe not. I think in a moment here, Patrick will probably see a Detention Sphere get cast.
Yeah, I think Matthias is trying to set the game to that place. Just play a slow game.
He's in no rush.
No
He's
rush.
in the driver's seat. He's got answers for days. Puts the top card to the bottom. See some mana's going to get tapped here. This is going to be our Detention Sphere to take care of the Underworld connections. And Hunt, since he has already played his land, is just going to pass the turn back. Politis going to untap. He'll take a draw. Looks like he may have picked up a Whip of Erebos, but that one is real slow right now.
Yeah, that turn really needed to be another source of card advantage. An Erebos or an Underworld connections.
There's just the Desecration Demons going to pass the turn back over to Hunt, who will take a draw. Again, we know Matthias does have a copy of Elspeth in his hand, so he does have an answer to the Demon if he'd like to go that route. He decides he's going to go with a Thoughtseize. There's the Grip, Whip of Erebos, Desecration Demon, and a Swamp.
Yeah, and I like this path a little bit better where he can see what's going on, play the Supreme Verdict if appropriate, and make sure the coast is clear for Elspeth the next turn.
Takes the Whip. Looks like you might see a little 1-for-1 action with Supreme Verdict, and we do. So trade that for the 6/6. And Hunt has not played a land yet this turn, but I think he's about to, and he will with Temple of Silence. So a little scry action. Looks at a Blood Baron with Scopa. Says, I'm going to keep that.
Yeah.
I want that. Passes the turn back. Thoughtseize the draw here for Politis. So he could take down the Revelation, but he doesn't know what's on top of the deck, and it's a good one for Hunt.
Yeah, it's not clear that Terry is in a position to beat any one of the cards that Matthias has in hand.
Yeah. That is the real issue. There's Deso. And no Thoughtseize being cast. A little surprising there. There's your island. I think this is going to be your Elspeth, Patrick. Yeah, and that's just going to, that's going to minus and take your Desecration Demon past the turn back.
Yeah, I like Elspeth minus here instead of plus, as Matthias has more than enough ways to win the game at this point, and he has to concern himself with the potential of Hero's Downfall or Bile Blight potentially being an issue.
Thoughtseize is going to reveal what we like to call the nuts. Sphinx's Revelation, a Blood Baron with Scopa, and the worst card in Matthias' hand is the Jace, Architect of Thought.
They're all tied for best.
Yeah. There goes the Blood Baron. See if there's maybe another discard spell coming. All right. You can take the Rev, leave with a Jace, and maybe hopefully Jace bricks off, but then you just have to beat 2 Planeswalkers.
Yeah, no big deal.
I'd say it's a big deal. I would argue that it is a big deal. Hunt going to take a draw here. Oh, it's just Sphinx's Revelation. That's neat.
Sure.
That's fun. I'm going to take Elspeth up to 2. There are your soldier tokens. You know what's a really great feeling? When your opponent has a Jace, you know they have a Jace, and they pass the turn back.
Yeah.
That's just really comforting, enjoyable stuff. It's just a Revelation for 4.
Although technically Matthias should probably have cast it on upkeep, as there's the possibility of Gainsay or a counterspell of his opponent there, but not a huge deal.
Matthias draws 4 cards, draws 4 life. Looks like he drew Revoke Existence among the other cards. Here's an attack here for 3.
Yeah, Revoke is a great, singleton to have access to, either in the main deck or the post board against Mono Black, because if they're going to beat you, it's probably going to involve Erebos or Underworld connections.
Yeah, I agree. There's Jace now. See how Matthias wants to use this. Tick up or tick down. It looks like he's going to tick up. Elspeth is going to go up as well. He almost forgot to use it for passing the turn back.
Yeah, I think Matthias may just want to try to end the game by going ultimate with Jace here.
I like it. Sure, we don't get to see Ultimate Chase very often. I think the last time was Sam Pardee in Los Angeles. That was a sheer delight, getting a Domri.
It's nice.
There's a Gray Merchant. Going to be a little drain and gain for 2. Politis going to go up to 12. Hunt's going to go down to 18, I believe. Nothing crazy, though, happening. You can see just how difficult things do get when the black deck has to take a couple of mulligans.
I had an opponent Ultimate Chase against me a few days ago.
What'd they find? A Foundry Street Denizen?
They got a Rumble Belt Maka.
That's really good. That just is a really good sign of how good your deck is.
Right. Well, they also got an Elspeth of their own, which was good enough to win the game. But they did get all they were able to get on me is a Maka.
Wow. You showed them.
I did.
You know what I like about your deck? Your deck is very good against Jace Ultimate.
It's really resilient against a Jace Ultimate.
And that's key. It's really key. You see Jace going to tick down here. A couple cards going to go to the bottom. There's a Hollow Fountain. We're going to see some attacks. Hunt's going to lose one of those creatures. Going to get 5 damage across. And just working his way through a Gray Merchant. Play's going to go down to 7. Elspeth going to take up to 4. 3 more soldiers incoming.
And we should be looking at lethal next turn here.
Yeah, but between that and the Mutavault, it should be good to go here for Hunt.
Syncopate in hand as some insurance.
Both players making sure the game state's okay, and it is. Hero's Downfall, the draw.
Little late.
You could say that. One could argue. See, Politis looking at a Hero's Downfall and a Watery Grave. That's his action.
Trying to figure out which Planeswalker he can kill, but not evident that he can even beat the board.
There is the Watery Grave tap past the turn back. Hunt will take a draw. Quickly just attack with everybody. There is the Hero's Downfall. This is a Syncopate. That's an extension of the hand. Matthias Hunt with Esper Control is going to defeat Terry Politis 2 games to 1. Esper Control does defeat Black Blue Devotion.